Agile is a mindset. It is combination of four values, 12 principles and multiple practices like Scrum, Crystal, Kanban, XP, etc. etc. In the PMP perspective, you need to master four values. Let's discuss them. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. We want to help out the customer, we want to facilitate the customer, we want to add value to that. So customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Contract is important, but collaborating with the customer, working with the customer is more important. If they want delivery in parts, we give them in parts. That is make MVP, minimum viable product, or minimum business product increment for them. Give them the thing that they need to get the market advantage. In order to do that, the second value help us, that is respond to a change or following a plan. Since we want to harness change for the benefit of the customer, so we respond to the change or following a plan. Plan is good. Agile does planning, high level adaptive planning, progressive elaboration, but if the change come, we don't need a change request, change control board. We respond to the change, add the change immediately in the product backlog, and we handle those change as we move forward. We want like individual and interaction over processes are tool. That is third value. This value states that the team is important, not the processes. Yes, processes are the keys, but how the team works, how the team co-locate, identify it, find the best practices, that is something important. Fourth value, whatever works is good. That is working software over comprehensive documentation. Yes, documentation has been the key in predictive, but here we want to harness the change. We want to collaborate with the customer. We want to identify new ways of doing work. So we cannot always go for the documentation. Working software, whatever works is the important thing, is the most critical thing. So we work into that. The 12 principles kind of a extension of these four values. Like we want to have incremental delivery, we want to have a team who works face to face, we want to simplify the processes, don't do extra thing, we want to have a sustainability, continuous work, we want dedicated team, we want a motivated individual, we want to make sure that the customer works, that business people work together, and all other methodologies, Scrum, Kanban, they reflect these principles. Understand that Agile is mindset, which customer is the key. We have people who want to learn, we train them, we guide them, we coach them like a mother or father does. You are a servant leader, helping the team, guiding the team, and focusing all the time on value and engaging or navigating the risk. If you understand this thing, you master your Agile for your PMP exam. I hope that makes sense to you. Scrum in 3 minutes. Scrum has 5 events. Sprint itself 1 to 4 week duration, minimum 1 week, maximum 4 week. Normally it is 2 weeks. Sprint planning. In sprint planning, we make a plan what we are going to do in the entire sprint. Then daily stand up, which is progress sharing meeting. We ask 3 questions in that. What you have done yesterday, what you are going to do today, is there any roadblocks or impediment? That's it. 15 minutes, same time, same location. We only discuss these things, status sharing. Sprint review. In sprint review, we basically show what we have completed. The user stories, which are requirement in Agile, we show them whether they are completed according to definition of done. Definition of done is checklist that the team used to make sure user stories are completed. And client check them according to the acceptance criteria. Again, a checklist that is with the client. So once the client accepted, good. Then the last ceremony here is sprint retrospective, lesson learned meeting. Here we identify the improvements that can be done for the next sprint. So 5 events, sprint planning, daily stand up, sprint review, sprint retrospective. 3 documents, product backlog, which is a list of all the user story, all the requirement. The product backlog has been prioritized by high value, high risk. What is the most important thing we want to do right now? Product backlog. Sprint backlog, what we want to do in this patent sprint. It is actually a subset of product backlog. Every sprint will have a different sprint backlog. Product increment. When in sprint review, customer accept something, it goes into product increment. In sprint review, if a customer requests a new user story, or if a user story is incomplete because agile talks about 100% completion, or a new user story is added, it goes into product backlog and we reprioritize. That is called grooming of product backlog. So product backlog, sprint backlog, product increment, three artifact. Then three roles: product owner, the person who defines the value of the product, which thing is more value; team member, who will decide how the things are going to be completed, when you should complete it; the velocity, what the velocity, that is the time required to complete a, like, velocity is the number of story point you complete in a sprint, and story point is the effort required to complete something. The team will decide the velocity, story point. And then a scrum master, servant leader, the person who will help the team, who will facilitate the, who will try to remove the impediment, like a mother or father. Product owner, scrum master, and team, that is scrum in 3 minutes. Stakeholder topic in 3 minutes. You identify the stakeholders through OPS, organizational process asset, which has lesson learned register. You identify them using enterprise environmental factor, political, economical, social, technical, legal, environmental, all internal and external. You ask the expert judgment, your sponsors, you review business case, business benefit management plan, project charter. All these documents are reviewed. Now you have thousands of stakeholders. You put them into your stakeholder register. It's an important thing. You identify as many stakeholders as possible in this stage. Once you have all the stakeholder, the next thing is to categorize them. Who are the important stakeholder, who are not important? First we do the categorization as upward, downward, internal, external, and sidewards. Once we have categorized the stakeholder in this way, the next thing would be prioritizing them using maybe power and trust matrix or salience model or stakeholder cube. Once you have categorized the stakeholder as the power and trust matrix, now the initiation is completed, your stakeholder register is updated. Now we go to planning. Here we make stakeholder engagement plan. Stakeholder engagement plan has the strategies required to engage the stakeholder. The strategies that are required to engage the stakeholders. We take important stakeholders with high power, high interest, and put them into stakeholder engagement matrix. Stakeholder engagement matrix is a tool, put it in the stakeholder engagement plan, which check the current engagement level of the stakeholder and your desired engagement level of the stakeholder. It has unaware, resistant, neutral, supportive, leading, at which level currently the stakeholder is and what do you desire. You make the stakeholder engagement plan having all the strategy. Then once the sponsor approve that plan, you start implementing that plan in the execution phase. And through the monitoring and control, you keep on checking if the current engagement level and the desire is change. You raise a change request to update your stakeholder engagement plan. Please note that in order to update the stakeholder engagement plan, you need a change request. But in order to update the stakeholder register, like a stakeholder is identified at any stage of the project, you will directly put him into the stakeholder register. There is no need to update, there is no need for any change request. A new stakeholder is identified, you put him into the stakeholder register, categorize, prioritize. Now if you need to update the stakeholder plan because of the new updated strategy, now you may need a change request. That's an important thing. One more time, a new stakeholder is identified, you put him in the stakeholder register, then you update the stakeholder engagement plan through raising the change request, and then the entire project management plan is updated with the same change request. I hope that makes sense for the stakeholder. That is very important for PMP exam. See you. In this video, let me give you a list of things. If you know them, if you understand well, you understand agile in PMP. First of all, what are the 4 values of agile? What those value means? What are those 12 principles in agile? What those principles actually mean? They are kind of a cornerstone of the entire PMP exam. Like the team member can be co-located, and it's the best thing. Team members should do one thing at a time. They should not do overtime. They should be cross-functional, like in order to avoid single point of failure. Team member should be self-motivated, self-organized, and they should define what the work is, how much that work is gonna take. You train them, you always help out them as a agile champion or a scrum master. So when we go with the PMP perspective, Scrum is very important after 4 values and 12 principles. In Scrum, you should know what are the 3 roles, what is the role of Scrum Master, how the product owner defines the value and prioritized it, how the team select and do the work. What are the 3 documents or artifact, product backlog, sprint backlog, product increment. What are the 5 ceremonies or event, sprint backlog, sprint review, sprint retrospective, daily stand-up, and what are the information radiators in the daily stand-ups, burn-up chart, burn-down chart, cumulative flow diagram, task board, Kanban board, how these are different, what is the difference between these information radiators, what is definition of done, ready, acceptance criteria, like what happens when a user story is accepted, rejected, what happens in sprint retrospective, you should know that thing. And what is the difference between Kanban board and task board, that's kind of important thing. What is Moscow 100 points different, like what is story points, what is user story, velocity, can you compare velocities of the team, what is Fibonacci series, affinity estimation, and wideband Delphi, what is XP, and what is pair programming, test driven development, refactoring, crystal, what is crystal actually, what is lead time, what is cycle time, how the servant leader develop his teams, and what is basically monopoly, Moscow, I already gave that, how you basically prioritized it, what is spike, architectural spike, and risk spike. And if you know all these things that I just mentioned, you know your AHL, and that is more than enough for PMP exam. I hope that makes sense. Communication in 3 minutes. Communication is the most important thing that a project manager should know. The skills that a project manager should master is communication. It also includes influencing skill, decision skills, emotional intelligence, and all the ingredients of emotional intelligence. As a project manager, you need to make a communication management plan which consists of 4 hours of communication. Right information at right time to right people to have right impact. Like the communication plan should define who should know this information, how much information he should know that, when you should deliver that information, what impact that information will have, how much detail that information is needed, whom you need to share that information. So once the communication plan is ready, that has all the communication requirements for the stakeholders with all the details, the cultural condition, the consideration, the political consideration, the diversity consideration, which language you are going to use. We need to understand, do we need a push communication, pull communication, interactive communication, or the combination of all these 3 form of communication. How the communication model will be from sender to receiver, and which language it will be, and if a noise happen, how you are gonna handle that thing. What level of information is needed? Do we need work performance data, level 0 information, or work performance information, or work performance report, the highest level of information? Who needs the information, when they need that, you provide them. So once the plan is approved by the sponsor or the change control, you implement the plan in managed communication. Managed communication is more of the post office of entire PMP. And then in monitor communication, you see that your communication plan is effective or not. If not, you raise a change request to change your communication plan. That's kind of an important thing for your PMP. So if a new stakeholder is identified, you will always go and first put in the stakeholder register, then raise a change request, put in the stakeholder register, stakeholder engagement plan, and then the communication plan. This should be the sequence of that. Guys, communication tools and techniques that you use for virtual team, how you co-locate them, the collaborative tool you use is very important for your PMP exam. Information radiators used in the communication, what signs and language you utilize, and as a servant leader, you always communicate in the most obliged, the best behaved way, and how you handle the communication challenges is one of the most important thing for PMP exam. That's everything you need to know about communication for your PMP exam. Thank you. Team in PMP. There are four types of resources: manpower, material, machinery, money. Like, we are going to talk about resource. You make a resource management plan that discuss how do you acquire the resources, you develop them, you manage them, and finally you release it. Team is the most important topic of the PMP because PMP is all about how you engage the stakeholders and how you manage the team. So in order to understand, let's discuss few documents. Resource management plan we just discussed, then team charter. Team charter, also known as social agreement, working agreement, it basically has the ground rules, the rules and regulation that the team has, how the things should happen, how the things should occur among the team members. So ground rules, this team charter is very important. Initially, project manager should make, ideally the team should update it according to them. Then we have a resource calendar, which is kind of a document when the team members will come, what will be their schedule, we need to understand that. And then RACI, which has who is responsible for what thing, who is accountable, who is consult, whom to inform. Then of course RAM, their things, responsibility assignment matrix. When a team comes, a project manager should identify their strengths and weaknesses, and he should provide the work to each team member depending upon their strengths and depending upon their weaknesses. He should provide the work according to their strengths. He need to identify the training needs requirement from the team in the start for the entire team and throughout the project for the individual team members. He should arrange the trainings for them, provide the training and measure the training outcomes, and maybe the certificates may be provided along the way. In the start for the entire team and throughout the project for the team members. Whenever a team member is lacking any skill, he should be provided training. He may need coaching, that is more of a soft skills, or a one-to-one mentoring depending upon the requirements of the need. Whenever a conflict happens in a team, a project manager should always identify the level of the conflict, the source of the conflict, why this conflict is happening, identify what is the potential solution that, and accordingly choose maybe problem solving, that's a win-win situation, or sometime maybe we need to avoid the problem at all, so lose-lose situation can be there. Identify why the problem is happening and provide the solution accordingly. Smoothing, accommodating, all these things are a good things are placed at the table. If you understand this thing, that's a good thing about the team. I'll carry on in the next video about the team. Thank you. Risk management in 3 minutes. Risk management plan is made. It defines how the risk management process will be handled. Is your organization risk seeker, risk averse, neutral? What is the threshold and tolerance of your organization? Risk management plan does not have any risk in it. It only has the procedures how the entire risk process will happen. You identify the risk using SWOT analysis, OPS, EF, expert judgment, focus group, and all other documents. You identify the risk, put it in a document that is called a risk register. Then you rank the risk qualitatively, probability and impact, and quantitatively using tools like tornado analysis, sensitivity diagram, decision tree analysis, expected monetary analysis, and other tools. Once you have prioritized all the identifier risk through qualitative and quantitative risk analysis, now you put a response for both opportunity, that are positive risk, and negative risk, that are known as threat. For positive risk, we have exploit, where you increase probability and impact, enhance, where you only increase probability or impact, and share. For negative risk, we have avoid, where we make sure either probability is 0 or impact is 0. 0 multiplied by anything is 0. Or if you cannot avoid the risk, you either mitigate the risk, which means decreasing the probability or impact, or you transfer it to somebody. Remember, when you transfer the risk to somebody, you have to pay them something premium, like insurance or something like that. Now, for both positive and negative risk, if they move away from the threshold, remember, risk management plan talks about what is the threshold, and every organization have different threshold. You escalate it to the senior. For both risk, we have acceptance. All these avoid, mitigate, transfer are proactive strategies. Acceptance is reactive strategy, where you identify the risk, but you make a plan. If that risk occur, you use the contingency plan or plan B, fallback plan. We assign the risk owners who look at the triggers of the risk and implement that contingency plan, and if a residual risk occur or a secondary risk occur, they are handled in that proper way. Anything that is identified before happening is a risk. Anything that is identified after happening, it's an issue. You make a risk report, that's an overall summary of the project, and in this way you tackle every single risk. You do risk audit to understand are you following the proper risk process or not, and risk review meeting to look at the reserves left. This is the entire risk summary in 3 minutes for you. Procurement flow in 3 minutes. What is procurement? The first thing that we need to decide in procurement is to make or buy. Like, why do we want to even buy from outside? It can be because of the cost. Outside thing is cost effective, quality, resource, or it makes more sense, whatever the reason is to buy from outside. Once you have decided to buy, now we need to identify which type of contract we are going to have. Are we going to have a fixed price contract, cost reimbursement, or time and material? If we want to buy something on subscription or rent it out, then time and material is your answer. If your scope is 100% clear, we go for fixed price contract. Firm fixed price. If you want to give like incentive to someone to complete something earlier, we can have fixed price incentive free. Or if the contract is long term, to avoid inflation, we can have fixed price economic price adjustment. In cost reimbursement, if you understand, okay, the high level thing is this and I want to get it back or get it repaired, like let's say your AC is not working, you want to get it repaired, but you don't know exactly what is the problem. You go to the mechanic, he repair your AC, he will get a fixed price plus cost reimbursement for the gas or the part that damage. So cost reimbursement, fixed price. You can also have an incentive where you ask someone to do earlier, or if somebody gives a good job, you can give in cost award fee. Normally, when you want to avoid the risk, we go with cost reimbursement incentive fee or cost reimbursement fixed fee. Now these are the type of the contract. When we have decided this, then we will decide source selection criteria, why we want to buy from somewhere. It's the same thing why you want to have a burger from Wendy's or McDonald's. So you make a source selection criteria which you never share with the vendor or the supplier. Then you make a procurement statement of work. Procurement statement of work will have each and everything that you want it, and you advertise this opportunity. Your planning is complete. You have bidder conference where you explain the requirements. Once you select the seller, you negotiate a contract. Project manager does not take part negotiation when it comes to price. Then the things start coming. The products start coming. You inspect the product, accept, give them the money, close the procurement. Procurement can be closed throughout the project. If you disagree with the product, there's a conflict, you try to resolve the conflict by win-win situation. If you cannot do that, do what is written in the contract. If you cannot do that, get an arbitrator. That is step 3. If you cannot do that, last step, go to the court. Going to the court is never a good thing. This is the procurement planning. Conduct procurement and control procurement. Remember, procurement is closed throughout the project, not just in control. I hope that makes sense. Quality in 3 minutes. You plan the quality management plan that defines what standards you are going to follow. It includes like standards of your organization, internal standards as well as external standards. We use benchmarking tools to identify the best practices and use those standards as our starting point. The another tool that is used in quality in planning stage is cost of quality, like the money you are going to spend on quality, cost of conformance, money spent to avoid failures, and cost of non-conformance, money spent because of failures. These things goes into your quality management plan, and once your quality management plan is approved by the management, now you are set for the planning stage. One more thing that we do in quality topic in planning phase process group is that you make a quality matrix, the KPI matrix. What KPIs you are going to measure, SPI, CPI, what are the things that you are going to measure, number of changes in the scope. So you agree and plan. Once your quality plan is approved, the planning is completed. Now you go to manage quality, also known as quality assurance. So quality assurance is like this, that you make sure while the deliverable is in the process, that it is the right deliverable. I'll repeat. While the deliverable is in the process, you are making the right deliverable. And once your deliverable is ready, now you are in the control quality. That's a very important distinction. Manage quality or quality assurance is when the deliverable is in preparation. You are trying to influence before the deliverable is ready. But once the deliverable is ready, now you go to control quality. In control quality, according to agreed quality plan, the quality team checks your deliverable now, or inspect your deliverable, and if that deliverable is according to quality plan, we call that deliverable as verified deliverable or quality approved deliverable. Okay, this is internal to the team. Client is not involved. Client is get involved in the next step, which we will cover in scope. So plan quality, manage quality, and control quality. In control quality, you are getting verified deliverable. Some of the tools that are very important for the quality: checklist, check sheet, control chart, Pareto chart, Ishikawa diagram, flow chart, mind maps. Understand these tools and technique to master that. Scatter diagram, sampling, how sampling can helps you. Like let's say you get the data, you put in the checklist, and then you use Pareto to you identify which is the most important. Then with the scatter diagram, you identify the correlation, and in this way, with the root cause analysis, you identify the bottom of it. That is quality for you in 3 minutes. I hope that makes sense. Scope in 3 minutes. You collect the requirement utilizing a requirement management plan. You have techniques like brainstorming, expert judgment, focus group, context diagram, facilitated workshop, observation, prototype, value stream mapping. All these techniques are utilized to collect the requirement. Once you have requirement, you put into the requirement traceability matrix, which will trace the requirement from the origin till today. What is the reason of the requirement, who required it, every single thing, a very big document. And you will also categorize the requirement documentation, that will categorize the requirement as a functional, non-functional, quality, etc. Once that is done, using scope management plan, we will filter requirements for the product and project. And once we have project requirement, it will be in a document called project scope statement. Once project scope statement is ready with us, we use decomposition technique to divide the deliverable into small manageable parts. That is called work breakdown structure. The smallest or the lowest part of the WBS is called as work package. Rule of thumb is that work package should be a effort of 8 to 80 hours. That should be what work package size is. The highest part on the WBS is called control account, where management take part, and any level in between can be called as planning package. So highest control account, then planning package, the smallest one work package. So in order to understand WBS, we have WBS dictionary, and the number that we use to assign WBS is called code of account. Once your WBS project scope statement and this entire things get approved, we get our scope baseline. Now this is approved version of scope. Nothing can be added in it without going to proper change control procedure. So we raise a change request to update our scope baseline. If a customer try to add something without going to change control procedure, that is called scope creep, which is not allowed in the project management. And secondly, if you give more than what is agreed in the scope, that is called gold plating. Again, that is also not allowed. So guys, basically, when a customer in quality, we discussed that customer says that now the deliverables customer checks after the quality team has checked it. Once the customer checked those verified deliverables, which was checked by quality team in the start, now customer check in validate scope. And when the customer says, okay, this is according to scope baseline, not according to quality plan, we check according to scope baseline. If they says that it is according to scope baseline, we get validated accepted deliverables. So this is scope in 3 minutes. I hope that makes sense. Flow of schedule in 3 minutes. So in the last video, we made WBS work breakdown structure, and then we made scope baseline. Now in the scheduling, first we look at a schedule management plan that will tell you which software you can use, maybe Primavera, Microsoft project, and it will also tell you how much level we need to go into details for the work packages. Now since we already have a work package, using decomposition technique we'll divide the work package further into activity list, activity attributes, and milestone list. Milestone is basically shares with you what is the most important things, and milestone has zero duration. Milestone is an important, significant event having zero duration. Once you have this activity list, we will look at what are the relationship between them, what are the dependencies. Do you have mandatory dependencies or discretionary dependency? Are they internal or external? Plus, we see the relationship. Is it a finish to start, start to start, start to finish, or finish to finish? Which type of relationships we have in these activities? Once we have the relationship, now we'll look at the duration that needs to complete any activity. If we already have a past information for something and we are going to do the same thing now, we will use analogous estimation. If we have a past as knowledge about the activity, and but now there are multiples of it, statistical relationship, we will use parametric estimation for the duration. We can also use bottom up estimation when we have a lot of information about that, or a 3-point estimation when we have optimistic duration, pessimistic, and most likely. 3-point estimation can be triangular distribution or beta distribution. Important thing, if in the exam it is not mentioned, always use beta distribution. Once we have the duration of each activity, using critical path method, we will calculate the duration of the path. The longest path will be the critical path, and critical path have zero float. Float is the amount how much activity can be delayed without delaying to the critical path. Now critical path will use schedule baseline. If you want to reduce the schedule, you can have schedule compression technique, crashing and fast tracking. Both need change request. Crashing is adding the resources which will increase the cost. Fast tracking is making activities which are in series parallel. Both are important thing. If you want to optimize the resource, you can have resource leveling that will optimize all the resources but may increase schedule baseline. Or if you want to using resource smoothing, which you use when you don't want to increase your schedule baseline. You will use this thing, keep working, keep enhancing your schedule to make sure you have optimized schedule. This is the schedule topic in 3 minutes. I hope that makes sense to you. Cost in 3 minutes. So we have already made it scope baseline, schedule baseline. Now we will make cost baseline. For that, first we'll make cost management plan that will give us the tolerance of the project, how much rough estimate should be, from where we are getting financing, what are the funding limit, reconciliation, and things like that will be mentioned in the cost management plan. Then using the cost management plan, the same activities on which we have estimated duration, same things including specifically the current rates of market fluctuation, inflation, we will calculate the cost of on each activity. We add them, we will add contingency reserves to each activity. Contingency reserves are the estimates of the identified risk, and now we have cost baseline. One more time, cost baseline is the estimate cost of activity plus contingency reserve. Now project budget is a little different from cost baseline. Project budget includes management reserve, unidentified risk, we don't know what can happen. So management, according to cost management plan policy of the organization, put maybe 5%, 10% management reserve into the overall project. We have cost baseline, we'll look at the funding limit reconciliation, how we are gonna release this. We're gonna look at the financing of the project. Now we want to measure cost schedule in the project. Earned value analysis is used in predictive as well as agile. The important thing to remember is that schedule performance index, that is schedule variance, how your project is doing schedule wise, and cost performance index, CPI, and cost variance. It should be more than one. If it is more than one, it's good for the organization. If it is less than one, it's bad for the organization. If it is on one, that's okay, not bad, not good. We are on schedule with their own budget. Okay, Remember, complete budget in the project is called as BAC, budget at completion. And if the budget changes in the project, you need to estimate a new budget, that is called estimate at completion, which becomes EAC is equal to budget at completion BAC divided by CPI. So we actually estimate how much more money is needed for the project. That's the entire cost topic for your PMP. Remember, SPI, CPI should be more than one for a project to perform good. Business environment, it's a very important topic. Actually, many things are a combination of that, but let's understand. In the business environment topic, you need to understand compliance requirements. Can be health and safety, quality. All those compliance requirements can be quality, it can be health and safety, environmental. They are identified, put in the risk, and manage according to the risk register. And you set a risk honor, and when any trigger happen, you manage them. Secondly, in the compliance topic, you need to understand, like, business value is the most important thing. At any time, if the business value is not delivered, the project will not be beneficial. Business value consists of two things: business case, benefit management plan. Business case consists of tangible money thing, benefit to cost, ROI, IRR, all these terms, NPV. Like, you should earn something, tangible things, business case. Whereas benefit management plan consists of intangible things. So, like brand recognition, brand awareness, things like that. So, do you do need assessment? Once your business document, business case, benefit management plan are approved, then you make project charter. This is basically how the business value is measured. And at the end of the project, once the project is completed, you measure benefit management plan, whether the intended benefits were achieved or not. In whenever you are talking about business environment, it's important to look at the which life cycle you are going to have for organization, depending upon the delivery and scope. If your delivery is in paths and your scope can be changed, then agile. And if it is fixed, both of those things, then predictive life cycle will be used. Governance is another important topic when we talk about business environment. Governance is a framework which governs the entire project. Governance framework, governance board, or sometimes known as steering board, they will decide about the project budget. They will check after each phase of the project that whether we should move ahead or should we cancel the project. It's an important concept. They will tell you to kick off the project, that now we can start the project. Another important concept in business environment is whether your organization is functional, that is also known as operational, or is it projectized, project oriented, or is a metrics organization. Metrics can be weak, balanced, or strong metrics depending upon the project manager power. OPS, which is policies, procedure, tools, and templates, also database and lesson learns of the organization need to understand, and your enterprise environmental factor. I like to use the acronym of PESTLES: political, economical, social, technical, legal, environmental, to explain the OPS. So this is the summary of business environment and the PMP. I hope that makes sense for your PM.